Library Facilities Financing Authority meeting. Can we have a call to order, please?
Martin Bernard.
Here.
Jamie Goldstein.
Here.
Jenny Hariyama.
Here.
Carlos Palacios.
Here.
All right, thank you. Are there any additional materials this morning?
This was submitted as part of your board packet electronically, but we wanted to give you
Thank
some
you.
larger pieces of paper.
And are there any additions or deletions to the agenda this morning? There are none. All right. This is a time for oral communications. Is there anyone that would like to address the board for any matter that is not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Executive Director,
I'm sorry.
would you like to address the board?
We were just checking to see if it was on the agenda for the LFFA, and we can't tell.
This is the time for oral
Yes,
communications.
I know, and
Yes.
so
So
we
would
want
you
to
like
make
to?
sure if it was on the agenda.
Okay.
She didn't
All right.
want to get up and speak about it then.
I think it's here.
Okay.
Are we good?
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we're fine.
Okay, Executive Director's report. Do we have one this morning?
Yes, I attached progress updates on each of the projects. I have to say we have a camera overlooking Capitola and Felton, so you can watch them go up. I think we're having a very good time doing so. We're making progress on all fronts, and we have tried to put together a master calendar for all of you. I think this becomes really important in terms of decisions about bond sales, as well as operating choices we're going to be making over the next 3 years in funding the library. This is a very rough draft, but I think it's important that potentially we just keep this up to date and present it to you monthly. What I've been trying to do is work with project managers so that we don't have too many openings and too many closures at the same time, and that we're conscious of the regions. So, for example, that we don't close the Boulder Creek Library before we open the Felton Library. That's what we have.
Are there any questions? Okay, do we have any project updates from the board members in addition to what Susan has put together for us on the executive report?
Did we just skip that? Susan?
If you'd like to address the board, please come to
On
the
the
podium.
executive director's report,
If you have a comment, please come up to the podium so we can get you on camera. Thank you.
Well, first of all, again, thank you, Jean Brocklebank, and thank you so much for making the packet available, because we always learn stuff when we read that. Regarding the report on the branches, the thing that was troublesome to me is that it only addressed that first chart did not include the existing Live Oak Library. It only addressed the Live Oak branch. If you, in the paragraphs, the written paragraphs, Susan, the first page, there's no mention of the Live Oak Library itself. And it is included in the chart, but since of the two libraries that I use the most often, one is the Live Oak Library and the other is the Downtown Library. And one of the things that has bothered me since Measure S was passed is that the Live Oak Library, yes, it's basically brand new, and so is Scotts Valley. But Scotts Valley ended up with a paragraph on there about what's going on with Scotts Valley regarding the projects that are going on. So Scotts Valley is a new one, and they were on there. But the Live Oak Library is rarely discussed at all, and as a matter of fact, the community never had a meeting at the Live Oak Library. They had one in Scotts Valley for Measure S, how Measure S money could be spent and what the community would like to see at the Live Oak Library. Every other branch has had those community meetings. With the Live Oak Library, we had none, and I did email Public Works, I emailed the county, I asked them about this, and received no answer. basically. The thing that we do hear about is the Live Oak Annex, and with regard to the Live Oak Annex, that's much like the downtown library plans. The community was not engaged before it was presented after the fact with what was going to be done. And there have been 3 community meetings for the Live Oak Annex since it was presented to us, but we were not able to be involved in that planning. In fact, I asked if I could attend one of the 3 staff and Nolan Tam meetings with the architects, if the public could attend, even just to observe and watch while they decided what they were going to do. And we were told, no, the public cannot be in those meetings. So what I'm saying is the Live Oak Library itself in the director's report didn't get a mention. And furthermore, it seems like the existing Live Oak Library, just because it was new and it has a lot of problems, broken handrail, broken steps, broken ties, it does, but it never got, it's almost like it's being treated like a stepchild just because it's newer than the others. So thank you for listening.
So I think that one thing is, might be helpful to clarify is the way the Measure S was structured, the funding was allocated by jurisdiction. So each jurisdiction had discretion about how they were going to use the Measure S funding to improve their libraries within their community. So it's not within this board's purview to dictate to the county which libraries are going to be improved and which libraries are going to receive facelifts, how those funds are going to be used. So that how the Measure S funds are allocated is sort of beyond this board's purview and really is the subject of what each individual jurisdiction got their allocation and how they're going to use it. Just want to make sure everyone was clear on that.
Is there anyone else that has comments on this item before moving on? No, I didn't. Okay, thank you. So project updates and comments by board members. Were there any other comments at this time? No? Okay. That takes us to the consent calendar. Is there any board member that would like to comment or remove an item for comment? Is there any member of the audience that would like to comment on any item on the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion, please?
Vote to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Against? Seeing none, motion carries. The consent calendar is passed. So that takes us to general business. So annual election of chair and vice chair. Susan, would you like to do us the honors of letting us know what we're going to do here? This is so self-explanatory.
In 2015, the board established a rotation schedule, which is listed on page 43. So in 2019, the chair is expected to be the County of Santa Cruz and the vice chair the City of Capitola.
Okay, so do we have a motion for our new chair?
I'll move the motion under protest.
I'll second it under protest as well.
Okay, so we have a motion for Carlos to be the new chair. And do we include in that motion vice chair?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
For someone say Jamie, please.
Yes.
Okay, that's a yes. All right, do we have a second for that as well? Yes. Okay. All right, so Carlos has been moved for Carlos to be chair, Jamie to be vice chair. Do you have a second? I think we all second that. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And I'm sure no one from the audience opposes. If we do, please let me know. It's a little too late for now. All right, well, congratulations.
Okay.
We'll carry this out later on in the next meeting. All right, and then we have a financing schedule for item B for the special tax bonds.
And I'd like Nicole Colburn to come up and join us. It's that time again.
So good morning. So we wanted to present the schedule for issuing bonds this June of 2019. We had, our last issuance was 2 years ago in 2017. And so we had envisioned the next bond issuance taking 2 years later. So I believe Capitola and the county both have a need to issue bonds to have financing available for the Capitol and Felton branches, plus the other county projects. And then Santa Cruz and Scotts Valley, there may also be a need there. In the staff report, you can see that we have authority to issue up to $67 million in bonds. That has to include the cost of issuance. So our bond capacity in terms of what jurisdictions would receive is less than that, depending on what those costs are. But so to date, we've issued about $21.6 million to the jurisdictions. You can see the amounts by jurisdiction in the staff report, and we have about $40 to $42 million in capacity left. So the schedule is attached to the staff report. I would like to work with you to get your bond funding request within a week, if possible, to draft the preliminary bond expenditure plan. We would bring that bond expenditure plan to the board for review at the March meeting. There would be an opportunity to make refinements to it and bring it back for final adoption in May, but we want to get moving and trying to develop something so that we have an idea of what the bond issuance may be in June.
And I would just add that based upon this preliminary schedule, a project really needs to conclude within 3 years of issuing the bond itself. The two projects that are cutting, well, Apatow would cut that close, and then the downtown library. So I think we've always intended to have 3 bond issuances. We could actually do everything but the downtown library in this second bond issuance, but it puts a strain on Capitola in terms of timing.
So Capitola, if I remember correctly, we need about, so Capitola, we need about we need 2 more million in Measure S funds.
A little bit less. You're going to receive some
Some
PAYGO this year.
so a little bit less.
Right.
But that's all we would need basically to sort of takes us to the end of a year from now, basically. Sort of a year from now, we would need about whatever it is, $1.7 million more. Is that driving a June issuance this year? Because it seems like we might be able to solve that with PAYGO and then delay the issuance to sync up better with Aptos?
Well, I mean,
Could we solve that with PAYGO, or is there needs?
we won't be able to cover your 1.7 with PAYGO because it's distributed based on the percentages. So there's a formula. and-
Right, but that's pursuant to the JPA, it's not
Right.
pursuant to the vote. So I mean, this vote,
I see what you're saying.
what I'm saying is that Capitola had probably the first need for the money, and I don't want to drive up the issuance date solely for 1.7 million, which I think could be covered with PAYGO or other financing sources, if we could collectively agree to revise the PAYGO schedule, which would give everyone more flexibility. I just want to toss that out there, I guess.
Can I ask a question? Is June the only time to issue bonds? Can we do it in December, for example?
I could ask about, there's potential to issue it another time of year. We could think about pushing it back.
I think even the 6 months might buy us just a little more flexibility on projects.
What about Brant's 40 and is that PAYGO? Is that what we're talking about?
The city does have some significant PAYGO.
Right.
And you've looked, I think it may cover, Brant's 40 and Garfield Park are about $3 million. So we may be able to cover them with PAYGO. But under this scenario, Martine, we're pushing those 2 projects first and going to try to move into them immediately. So we do need to use resources from Measure S, whether it be PAYGO or bonds, to get those projects complete.
The city has received $4 million to date, and you'll receive another $1 million, I believe, this year.
So PAYGO should cover it.
PAYGO should cover your 2 smaller projects. And you also have $500,000 outstanding in the first issuance, so we need to draw those down. Those should be the first funds you draw down. just so that we can complete that.
Yeah, Scotts Valley would have a little bit of a challenge because in order to do some basic improvements to the library itself, it's at least $2.4 million for us. And so we only have about 900, is my understanding. And what
You'll have
3 to
a little
4 is
bit.
pay-go and about 500,000 is the bond. So
Right.
I don't know if we would have enough in a pay-go situation to close that gap. And it seems to me that we would need to issue at least the remaining or close there too.
So you're hoping to begin construction.
We really need to fix our roof because we don't want to be into another storm in next year. And so if there was an issuance in
So you'd like to
December,
do
that
this
would be
summer?
problematic. I'd like to start, correct, towards the end of the summer and fall to try to get that immediate need taken care of. And when they rebuilt the library, they left in some of the original roof membrane, and there are some seismic issues that need to be addressed, so we do have some immediate needs that we need to take care of.
I think, though, we can look at the July 1st versus January 1st and as an option in all of this.
Yeah, I can explore that,
That'd be great. I
definitely.
mean, I'm open. See what it looks like.
Depending on what your cash flow is, Jenny, maybe we can make it work.
Okay.
Yeah, I just feel like with the cash flow, there should be some way to not end up issuing so early, whether it's internal financing in our own jurisdictions or whether it's something else creative. It just feels like we're putting a lot of pressure on projects like Aptos. I'd love Aptos to get done as soon as possible, but or maybe even potentially Maine, that we don't need to necessarily. And also, obviously, financing costs. You know, if you issue early, you know, you're paying for it. So
The other thing I want to know is that the additional money we added to the projects, that has to be a mixture of PIGO and bonds. So
Right.
it can't all be bonds, right?
Exactly.
So we need to walk that fine line of trying to draw down on both.
But I also, in pushing a few of the projects back in terms of trying to manage workload. So the big thing for me about Aptos is I can't afford to have Aptos close while Capitola is closed. And so it's sometimes beyond the control totally of the county as well. It's just managing staff and patrons and so.
The other issue is interest rate risk by delaying. I mean, I think
That's true.
that was part of what was driving, I think, is because interest rates were increasing, but now it seems like there's been a pause in the Federal Reserves, so maybe that we do have less risk, interest rate risk.
More time.
More time.
How much is your project, Jim?
So we will expend all that's available, but if we did the immediate needs to the library, it's about $2.4 million. And then if we extended some additional improvements to the adjacent space, because there's roof issues, it's kind of silly for economies of scale to not do the other, and there's HVAC issues as well, then it extends to about $3.4 million, another $1 million. Yeah, but the immediate need is our library is, basically we have buckets in the library, and that's just unacceptable. So, yeah.
It's true.
would it make sense to have some subgroup of this or staff in different jurisdictions work with Nicole to try to, folks who understand the timing of the, would that be helpful?
I'm happy to take the help if you want to volunteer, Jamie.
And the truth of the matter is I need to learn more, so I'd like to be a part of it as well.
I'd be willing to do that because, I mean, I think for Capitola's 1.7 million, you know, we don't need it right now. We have a contract, we're gonna need it. It's not so much that I feel like, you know, there aren't some other solutions to sort of internally finance it some other way. I think that buys us 6 months, but the interest rate risk is also real as well, and I would want, you know, bond counsel advice about that timing.
Okay, if I could just pause, if there's not any other questions, I'd like to see if there's any questions from the audience on this matter and then bring it back to the board. Does anyone have any comments on item B before we bring it back to the board for next steps? Okay, seeing none. So is there an interest in having a small subcommittee? I do have an interest in timing, so it could be Jamie and I, Susan and Nicole get together and talk offline about some options.
Yeah, I think it would be really helpful maybe.
And Marcus?
Yeah, or somebody who just understands your timing, because you're kind of
Or Martine, is it better to have the two of you, because I can,
Yeah.
okay, all right, so
Well,
we've got,
maybe you could fire an email to Susan or something and just explain what your
that's fine,
timing, unless you already are aware.
yeah. Okay, so we've got Jamie and Martine, going to be working with Nicole and Susan on this. Okay, Susan, this is just to receive the information, there's no formal action that you need from us today? Okay, great. All right, so that takes us to adjournment. Our next meeting is March 7th. We're going to be at the Aptos Library. Agenda item is bond expenditure plan. Okay, so now I'd like to open the Joint Powers Authority